Hello and welcome to the CircuitPython Weekly for January 21st, 2020. Today's a bit different. It's a Tuesday because yesterday was a U.S. holiday, so we've shifted a little bit. This is our weekly community meeting where we let folks know or folks get together to talk all things CircuitPython. Everybody's welcome to join. It happens usually on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. On the Adafruit Discord server, which you can join at adafru.it/discord. The cat is about to tip over the garbage can because I've started talking. But yeah, join our Discord. We'd love to chat with you. So this meeting, for those of you in the voice channel, just a heads up, it is recorded. So I'm recording the audio and the video from the CircuitPython text channel. That gets posted to the Adafruit YouTube channel at youtube.com/Adafruit. We also take notes. So if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, it tends to be at least an hour. So exactly. Look, I'm on TV. Yeah, very famous TV too. Yeah, so if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, we have notes and we put time codes in there so you can skip around for what you're looking for. This meeting is kind of split up into 5 parts. The first part is community news, where we go over all the things that are fit to print that have, or all the things that have printed stuff about CircuitPython. Lots of really neat things. Phil usually does that, but because it's Tuesday, I will read it off for him instead. The second thing we do is the state of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinka, which is kind of a statistics objective overview of the health of the project, which just remembered I have not snagged. So if somebody could snag this for me, that would be awesome. Those statistics are automatically pulled every night, so we can check those out. Next up, after State of CircuitPython, Libraries, and Blinka, we have Hug Reports, which is a chance for us to all just say thank you to folks for the work that others have been doing within the sphere of CircuitPython. It's very, very loose sphere, so if you have any just general thank yous, we're happy to entertain those and hear about them. So it's a chance for us to just step back, and we spend all week filing issues about things that are wrong, and this is our time of the week, or at least a set aside time of the week to thank folks for the good things that are going on. So thank you to whomever dropped the state of CircuitPython and the libraries in there. Hug reports and the next section after that, status updates. They're both done as a round robin, so I will start, and then we'll go through the list of the folks in the voice channel, and we'll also intermix any notes from folks who weren't able to make the meeting. So we're basically alphabetical order. We start with me just because, we start with the host because then they are able to be an example for folks. So if you're listening in but do not want to speak up, feel free to just let us know you're lurking and we'll skip right over you. No problem with that. If you don't want to speak or don't have a microphone, let us know you're text only, and drop the notes in the notes doc, and I'll read those off for you as well. Status updates. The second section that is round robin is a chance for you to spend a couple minutes talking about what you've been working on in the past week and a couple minutes about what you plan on working in the coming week. It's a great way to for other folks to be aware of what's going on, share tips and tricks. And Charles, can you mute, please? Thank you. And so status updates, just a quick what's going on. Lastly, we have our In the Weeds section, which is a chance for folks to bring up issues and topics that may take longer to discuss. So we'll do that at the end. And like I said before, the meeting does tend to run about an hour. We've been having a lot of attendance, so it's actually been more like an hour to an hour and a half. If you have stuff to do, if you can't make the whole meeting, we'll be happy to skip to you and do both your status updates and hug reports at the same time, if that works better for you as well. I think I covered everything, so I'll take a time code and we'll get going. Let me sort out the doc. So the first section here is community news. This is kind of just highlights of what typically Phil's been seeing through the interwebs regarding CircuitPython. So The first thing he has here is the Open Hardware Summit 2020 badge is CircuitPython powered. Michael committed the PR to add support for it. It looks really cool. It's a watch. So the folks that are at the Open Hardware Summit will be getting that, which will be really cool. And that's our 100 board. So we now have officially kind of 100 boards supported in the core. We have more obviously supported with Blinka as well. But that's a big milestone for us. So thanks to the Open Hardware Summit folks for being number 100. And 99 was the open book from Joey Castillo as well, which is super cool too. There's now a crowd supply for the SNEC board, which is a Lego compatible open hardware Python microcontroller board from Keith Packard. So check that out. If you haven't looked at CircuitPython.org recently, please do. Justin and Tyler just pushed a new revision to the front page that just looks awesome. So check out CircuitPython.org and take a look at that awesomeness. I'll take a time code. So more news on the spacecraft front. Software for Space. There's an event down in the Bay Area. I believe it's in San Francisco about meeting up with folks who are interested in open source spaceflight. Check that out there. And Max Holiday in particular has been doing a lot with CircuitPython in space. So if that's interesting to you and you're in the Bay, go check that out. That'd be super neat. CircuitPython powered LoRa watch. Saw this on the Twitter sphere as well. I think 2020 is going to be the year of watches. This is a separate one from the Open Hardware Summit one, and it includes LoRa capability, which is really neat. So just posted a link there with a cool animated GIF, and check that out if you're a LoRa and CircuitPython. And of course, Mr. Certainly's got the insight here that 2020 is the year of watches. It's about time. Ba-dum-bum. Next up, we had another preview of the clue board on the Adafruit blog. For those of you who don't know, it's a microbit compatible CircuitPython powered NRF 52840 board, which will have lots and lots of sensors on it, which will be very cool. And it's got a great silk screen there as well from Phil B. So kudos to those folks. And lastly, today is Tuesday, which means the clue's not a watch, although I'm sure you could 3D print a watch band for it. We could make it a watch. Lastly, the newsletter went out this morning. Usually there's a call in this meeting for articles for the newsletter, but since we're a day late, we're behind the times. If you missed it, if you're not subscribed to Adafruit, to the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter from adafruitdaily.com, there's a link to the issue that went out this morning. Lots and lots of cool stuff. This section is kind of just a preview of that. So check that out. And if you have articles about anything Python related that you'd like to get out to the world, this newsletter is kind of the place to put it. It's drafted on GitHub, so check that out and help us out and add some stuff there. So that is community news. Let's go to the state of CircuitPython and the libraries. This is a kind of objective statistics view of the health of the CircuitPython ecosystem more broadly. So overall, we had 29 pull requests merged from... I'm trying to take a time code and talk at the same time, which I can't do. We had 29 pull requests merged from 11 different authors. Some new folks I see here are Tiny Circuits, Linus G, dgloud, B Meisels, V Dehors are all new folks, and thank you to the folks that I skipped over as well who are regulars, so we really appreciate it. We had 8 reviewers, which is kind of becoming the norm, which is really, really cool. Reviewers are actually scarcer than authors, so thank you to all of our reviewers for helping get those 29 pull requests merged. Issue-wise, we had 20 closed issues by 8 people and 13 opened by 11 people, so we're net down, which is great. And yeah, keep on plugging away on those issues. We're gathering more, but that's because we just have so many things we want to do. Overall, I expect to see maybe the final beta this week. We're gonna hammer on some of the final BLE bugs, and then should be in a release candidate state for 5.0 shortly. So if you're in this meeting, I'd hope you were trying to out 5.0. There's a lot of really good stuff in there, and we want to get it out to the world. So please find some bugs in there and help us fix those. We'd really appreciate it. Next up, we have the core. On the core side, we had one pull request merged from Arturo 182, so thank you to Arturo, and one reviewer from Lady Ada. We had 9 open pull requests, a couple that are 0 days old, and a few that are 160 or so days old, so I need to take a look at those. Two issues wise, we had 2 closed issues by 2 people and 3 opened by 3 people, so we're right hovering around that that plus or minus 1 or 2, which is not too bad. We have a total of 253 open issues, and if you want to take a look at those, you can go to github.com/adafruit/circuitpython/issues. We have 7 active milestones, and we have 0 issues not assigned a milestone, which is awesome. So thank you to whomever was going through there. I think it might have been Dan. But yeah, that's always good. And if you want to see kind of on a per milestone basis what we've got, check it out in the notes as well. The number of supported boards, according to this script, is 101. So congrats again for us reaching 3 digits. In the note stock, we also have a detailed breakdown of download stats. I won't go over all of those, but we have it download stats both by board and by language. And the thing I'll comment on is that for those of you looking at the CircuitPython.org website, the downloads page is actually sorted by the number of downloads per board. So as boards become more popular with CircuitPython on them, they'll get sorted kind of in that page whenever we do a new release. So if we release beta 3, like it sorts by all of the downloads for beta 2 and whatever the stable is as well. So these stats can be kind of insight into that sorting. So here we have it broken down by language and by board. Just a quick comment for the stable release, which is 4.1.2, we've had 6,754 downloads, and the latest unstable release, 5.0 beta 3, has had 875 downloads. So as to be expected, we get a lot more downloads on the stable release, but the stable release has also been out for a while longer too. And with that, let's kick it over to Kattni for libraries.
Thanks, Scott. Mm-hmm. All right, so on the libraries, we have had 28 pull requests merged in the last week by 10 authors. Most of the new people that Scott already highlighted are in my 10 author list here, so that's excellent. And we also had 8 reviewers, which is amazing. Thank you to everybody who contributed both to PRs and to reviewing. We currently have 24 open pull requests. Our oldest one is 353 days. We are working on going through them. I know that some of the oldest ones were taken care of, merged, fixed, or closed. If you are one of the people that submitted a PR that's been around for a long time, please expect to see some activity on that. And if you can, please respond. If not, we're doing our best to kind of put together whatever needs to be done to finish them or closing them in the event that it's not applicable. So that's where we're at with PRs. We had 18 issues closed by 7 people and 10 opened by 9 people. So we are net down, which is also excellent. And that leaves us 139 open issues. And if you want to see a list of the pull requests and open issues and library infrastructure issues, as we call it, please go to circuitpython.org/contributing. It is called that because it is an excellent place to get started contributing to CircuitPython. It gives an overview of all the libraries. If you are looking to contribute to the Python side of CircuitPython, that is where you want to head to take a look and see what needs to be done, and possibly pick up something there. So I have a list of new libraries and updated libraries. We have one new library, which is the LIS3MDL, and the updated libraries list is astronomically long because it is based on new releases, and we are currently releasing every library because we had moved our continuous integration from Travis to GitHub Actions. So I am not going to read off the list of updated libraries. It will continue to be this long for the next week or so, I think. And then we will be done with this massive push, and it should go back to looking a little more normal. And that is what's going on with the libraries.
Awesome. Thank you, Katney. All right, let's kick it over to Melissa for Blinka.
Hi, so I'm going to read about Blink, which is our CircuitPython compatibility layer for Raspberry Pi and other single board computers. We had 2 pull requests merged by one author and one reviewer. That was by Yedo2788 is the author, and then I was the reviewer. There's 2 open pull requests currently, and there's one closed issue by one person and 2 open by 2 people. There are so that makes us up by 1 issue. There's 29 open issues at this point, and there have been 5,343 PyPI downloads in the last week, and it says the number of supported boards is 62, but I think that's a little high.
Mm-hmm. That's
it's
okay.
like in the upper 30s or something, but
we can have it be a little high.
We're on adding more boards. Huh?
We can have it a little high. It's fine.
Okay, let's say 62 then. And that's it for Blinka.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, let's go on the Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance for us to say thank you to folks for the work that they've been doing in the community more generally. So be prepared. Be prepared. The way that it works is we do it as a round robin. So I will start and we'll go down the list in alphabetical order in the voice chat. If you want to double check, if you said you're lurking, we should have it noted in the docs, but please just let us know. Lurking means you were just listening in. You don't have anything to say. If you don't want to use a microphone or don't have a microphone, you can let us know you're text only and I'll read those off. We do like to also mark those in the doc, in the notes doc as well. So that is helpful. Otherwise, I'll just call on you and feel free to unmute your mic and let us know what's going on. So first and foremost, I will start. First, thank you to Joey Castillo for the open book support. It was really exciting to see CircuitPython come to the open book. If you haven't seen it, it's an open source hardware e-ink ebook reader, which is really neat. And Joey's done a lot of interesting stuff with font rendering for other languages, including like Arabic, which is just mind-blowing, and would love to see that in CircuitPython as well. So thanks to Joey for that. Thanks to Sedacious for dropping in on one of the issues where there was a lot of back and forth, and just giving everybody a friendly reminder to keep it friendly, and that we did have a code of conduct to govern conversations on GitHub. I thought that was really well done, and it was definitely needed. So thanks to Sedacious for doing that. Really well done. Thank you to D. Harada and Sedacious for jumping in and helping with the BLE library stuff I asked for help with last week. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to getting that wrapped up. And lastly, thank you to Thea for reviewing PRs. Really appreciated it. It was great. I was talking with Michael, who did the Open Hardware Summit badge. He had pinged me about it on Discord privately, and I was like, heads down last week, and it all got taken care of while I was definitely not helping him out. So it's awesome to see other folks doing reviews and merging stuff. So thank you to Thea for that. Okay, and let's circle around and go to Arturo. Oh, he's not in here. Carter?
Sure, just a group hub this week.
Awesome. Thanks, Carter. And Charles is lurking, but C. Grover has a text-only group hug. Group hug to the team and the community. Charles is lurking as well. And let's go to Dan.
Okay, thanks to MS Costi in GitHub, who found an obscure problem which seemed to be related to Windows hardware. It was partly related to that, but there were also some bugs in the BLE library, one of which canceled the other out, and a very strange problem. But he gave me a lot of data for debugging it, and it really speeded up my debugging it. And thanks also to Urish in the same issue, who also reported the initial bug, confirming that it just wasn't a singular kind of thing. Thanks to a bunch of people in issue 1380, Warrior of Wire, Smurfix, Darscott, Lady Ada, R.D. Lehner, TGS, and NJ Smith, who are talking back and forth about async programming and concurrent programming. Somehow that issue picked up again, and there's been, as Scott mentioned, Brian, that is Sedacious, just said, "Hey, let's keep it nice, guys." So that was good. Thanks to Scott and Arturo for continuing to work on the I.MX stuff, which is really progressing at a furious pace. And then thanks to Scott for a quick review of the bonding code that I finished last week. So now we have bonding in CircuitPython. Okay.
Yay. All right. Next up is David, who's lurking in text only, so I'll read that off. David says, general hugs for all those writing stuff in learn.adafruit.com. I've been reading a lot of guides, especially about PyPortal. All right, let's go to Drew.
Wanted to thank Lady Ada for recommending that we add CircuitPython support to the Open Hardware Summit badge when I showed off a render on Show and Tell, and then also we got a reminder from Stargirl. So Mike, and thanks to Michael Welling for adding the pull request to get that added in. So excited to have CircuitPython on the badge.
Awesome. Thank you, Drew. Okay, next up is Foamy Guy, who I thought... Oh, is the mic not working? You look unmuted, but I do not hear you. They are typing. I'm happy to read it off. Okay, I'll read it off. Foamy Guy says, hug report to Jerry, Kitten Canaveral, and Doc Malo for helping testing the Android Blue Fruit Playground app, and a group hug for everyone that wrote a CircuitPython 2020 post. I was fascinated and inspired reading through them. Awesome. Okay, next up is Geek Guy. And I will read that off as well. Geek Guy says, hug report to Tan Newt and Sedacious for being so helpful when I have an issue to solve. You're both awesome. And hug report to the whole CircuitPython team for all of the hard work you do to make it easy for others to program micros. All right, thank you, Geek Guy. And let's go to Hierophect.
Okay, sorry, a little bit of new computer enable microphone. This week, big thanks to Scott for helping work on the VTOR, a complicated vector relocation bug on the STM32 last week. I learned a lot about debugging, so that was really helpful. So I appreciate you spending the time it took to get through that and showing me your debugging setup on Mac, which is very useful to see just examples of other people's stuff sometimes. Thanks to Jeff and Deshipu for helping with some questions when I was upgrading my computer, which was kind of my big task this last week, getting everything up and running again. And thanks to Matt Bodger, Lady Ada, and Tim Victor for their help on a little side project that I did on Monday, which was fun. So Yeah, and then group hug to everyone else. Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, Hair Effect. Okay, Jason's looking. So next up is Jeff.
Hello, everybody. I wanted to thank Dar. He was really diving in on SD card stuff after I was talking into the channel about it, and his findings dovetail with mine, so it's great to just see that reinforced and know that I'm not going down a false path. And thanks to Summersoft and Dan for PR comments on one of my PRs about the mixer. Thanks to Carter for some help in the CircuitPython help channel. I was having trouble with palette bitmaps, and he listened, and we both Googled and found an answer that worked for me and got me back on the road. Thanks to Lady Ada for telling me to come back in from the wilderness of audio playback glitches. And thanks to Pete and Lamore, they are sending me to OHS 2020, and I'm really excited about that. And so thanks, Drew, for the badge. I'm looking forward to doing something timekeepy with it. And group hug, especially since I'm sure there's somebody else I'm forgetting today. So if it's you, I'm sorry. I've so many great people and so much help, and I know somebody's slipping through the cracks.
Well, that's why we all do it, so that we all have a different perspective on how it goes, and we all have different people to thank. So yeah, that's what makes me not worry about it, is that there's other people that can thank people as well, not just me. Okay, next up is Jerry.
Hi, good afternoon, I think it is. And yeah, thanks to continue thanks to Foamy Guy for all the work on this new Android app for the Circuit Playground Bluefruit. It's coming along really well. And thanks to Scott and everybody else who's been involved with the Teensy 4 support. Nice to have a new toy.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry. All right, next up is Katney.
All right. So I want to thank all the new names showing up in this meeting, as well as all the new people contributing to the CircuitPython libraries. I'm loving seeing all the new names on the list of contributors and in this meeting. So thank you to everybody who is new and joining us recently. I want to give a hug report to John Park and C. Grover for suggestions and advice on my new audio setup, to PT for helping out with my new audio setup, to Scott for a great discussion last week, to Dan for stepping in on a forum post and ultimately resolving the person's issue. It was a problem with their drive not showing up from their Pi portal, I believe. And Dan always seems to find the weird wonky issues that are causing that problem. So that was excellent to see that fixed. I saw their reply recently, and they managed to get it sorted out. To Summersoft for a discussion about adding more features to Adabot as it goes, continuing to do so. And then to Dylan for the release party happening on all the libraries. That is why that list was so long. And lastly, to Roy for a ton of Git help and for helping me streamline some code.
Awesome. Thank you, Katney. Okay, Kinger North and KJW are lurking, so let's go to Maker Melissa.
Hi, I just wanted to give a hug report to Yeato 2788 for continuing work on Blinka, such as refactoring, adding more orange Pi boards, and working on the Onion Pi.
Awesome. Okay, Mr. Certainly is lurking, and so we'll go to MS Costi, who is also text only. So I'll read it off after I take a time code. MS Costi says, hug report to Dan H for all of the time spent helping debug a Windows 10 Beely HID related issue. He was really responsive, quickly found and fixed a related bug, and gave me a couple of custom builds of CircuitPython firmware for me to test, one of which fixed and unblocked my own project, which is awesome. Glad to get those smoothed out. Entol is missing the meeting, but has a general group hug to everybody in the notes. And whoa, I did not press shift at the right time. And lastly, we have Summersoft. Summersoft says, hug report to Jeff Epler for the audio mixer improvements. Hug report to Stargirl for sharing their note doc with thoughts on CircuitPython package management. And lastly, a group hug to everybody. And that's it for hug reports. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that. Next up, we have status updates. Status updates is a chance for us to talk a little bit about what we're working on. It could be anything, anything really, but related to CircuitPython ideally. And we do it just the same way we did that last section. So it is done as a round robin. I'll start and we'll skip over lurking people. I will read off text only stuff as well. So let's get going there. Scrolling. First up, I've got some stuff to wrap up this week. I made a ton of progress on the IMX RT PR. There's been some instability with the USB that I just need to, I think I can disable the decache for now, and that we'll get the stability back, although it sounds like TAC is looking at that as well. So my hope is to do the last few things I need to do before merging that in. And then I also have the Apple Media Center service that I did, or media service, BLE PR that has been pending for a long time. And that's actually my focus today so that we can get that out. So wrapping those two things up, I went way too heads down on IMX last week. I was getting through email yesterday, trying to get caught up, and I was just like 6 days behind, and it was just overwhelming. So I'm going to finish getting caught up on email and the forum and kind of recenter myself on what is important. Especially, we're so close to getting 5.0 out that I really need to help push that across the line. And then we'll have some breathing room to do some more IMX work and whatever comes in the future releases after that. So I'll talk with Dan about doing the beta. I think we should do one today or tomorrow, probably today. So that we can get more people testing bonding, which is awesome. Lady Ada asked me to create kind of like some standard sensor services, basically to use with Clue and make it really easy to do sensor stuff. So I think what we need for BLE is actually just a central place to document the BLE APIs that we've got going on. So I plan on adding that and keeping track of like what UUIDs we're using for everything. Definitely under the hood, but it'll be better for interoperability to have that. So I'm going to take a look at that this week. And then if I get through the sensor stuff this week, I do want to get back to BLE MIDI and any bugs that find that as well. So yeah. And then the last thing, I saw that there was a lot of stuff with the NeoPixel library over the weekend. There was an issue with using the NeoPixel library on Blinka that we hadn't foreseen with PixelBuff. And so I want to just pitch that we actually lock it down so that not everybody in CircuitPython librarians can release it. I think generally our libraries are used kind of few and far between, but for the core ones, we want to make sure that even if we for whenever we do a release, that we kind of keep track that happened and be kind of very aware and ready to respond to any issues that come from it. So I'd like to lock the CircuitPython librarian's role from write to triage, which gives some like issue and stuff management to everybody in librarians, but prevents librarians from doing a release. I think we should do that for the kind of the special repos that really a lot of people use. And that's the other example is that like the CircuitPython core is locked down that way as well. So that's my pitch. We can revisit this in the weeds if people have stuff, but I see Summersoft already made a comment on there as well. So yeah, okay. That's my status update and what's on my brain. I guess I didn't talk about last week, but I was heads down on IMX RT with Teensy for IMX 1020 EVK support, which is their dev board, and the 1060 dev board as well. So it's pretty neat. I think the IMX series in general is going to be very fast for small bits of code. But if it's a lot of code, then potentially it may not be as quick because the place it stores code is kind of slow. The CPU is fast, but the place it stores code is kind of slow. So it'll be an interesting complement to the existing boards that run CircuitPython. Okay, and with that, let's circle back and go to Carter.
Sure. A few things I did. Let's see, looking at the list here. I added some fake joystick buttons or fake buttons to Pygamer based on the joystick. I came across that. Looks like that was even a request you made, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And it was some low-hanging fruit. That was fun. Quickly threw that together, and that was done.
Nice.
And another simple request was to have settable I2C addresses for the character LCD. There's various backpacks and pie plates and shields. And so I added that to that repo. And oh yeah, I changed the example and display button. The quote unquote simple test example that was there was pretty complex. It did all kinds of things. So I moved that to a new name because it was a great example. It was just kind of a little too much going on, and then made it truly a simple one that was like a single button that just says "Hello World" and uses a built-in font, and made that simple. And then also was involved with various Pixel Buff stuff this weekend, and that's kind of ongoing. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Carter. All right. C. Grover has notes in the doc, so I'll read those off. C. Grover says, last week I wrapped up the code review and started the learn guide for the thermal camera project. Hope to wrap it up in a couple days. TFTs aren't very photogenic video-wise, turns out. Tested 3 unit conversion modules, time, temperature, electronics, with elements that support current Cedar Grove projects. And the purple PCBs are gathering dust. They stop staring at me and are whispering among themselves. I think they're plotting an escape. Next week, complete the thermal camera learning guide. Create a project plan to extend and expand the unit converter library and eventually make it available for public consumption. And then complete the code for the secret heirloom project. Looking through the antique stores for a suitable project enclosure. May have to warm up the woodshop instead. All right. That's from C. Grover. Charles is lurking, so let's go to Dan.
Okay, hold on. I scrolled to the wrong place.
I know.
Okay, so I guess as we mentioned, I finished BLE bonding. It's working. The library, there were some changes to the library to make it work a little bit better. That's all done. It's all in. John Park is working on a couple of different projects to do using BLE HID, which is much more convenient if you have bonding. So keep an eye out for a couple of new guides about that, like a BLE volume control and a BLE typing kind of thing. And as Scott mentioned, we're trying to wrap up 5.0. So I did go through all the issues and labeled them all, gave them milestones, and it would be great to try to polish off as many issues as possible to move on to 5.0 general availability. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Okay, Dave Ricchetti left some notes in the notes doc, so I'll read those off. Dave says, learning about Circuit Playground Bluefruit and planning to write some example code using the Python library with a link to github.com/Adafruit/Adafruit CircuitPython Circuit Playground. Next up is David Gloud. David says, still wondering what to say and show in 20 minutes in the FOSDEM 20 presentation. Maybe I should record myself for timing. I would recommend that. Yeah, I either record myself using my webcam or just audio as a way to time. So it's worked well for me. Second, David says, figuring that maybe I should do a GitHub with a demo code I could show, which is at a link here. Right now, it's 2PyPortals doing cheerlights, doing the cheerlight demo. Okay, next up is Drew.
Yeah, was working on some PWM issues in Blinka and then discovered that Blinka was not recognizing my BeagleBone Green. Turns out it's an issue with certain generations of those boards, so I'm working on adding handling in for that to the Adafruit platform detect code. So
Nice.
Hopefully have a pull request for that soon. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Drew. Okay. Dwester is lurking, so we'll go to Foamy Guy. Do you want to try your mic again?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. So then last week, main thing I was working on is finishing up the Bluefruit Playground app. So I got pretty far on that. I got that turned over to Colin and Antonio and the team. Just waiting to see if there's anything else I need to do there before that's ready to publish. And then going into next week, I'm looking to try to help dive in where I can on the Python side of things, helping out with issues and pull requests. And then I also want to play around with trying to make a similar sort of playground demonstration app with some of the other boards that don't have Bluetooth, using the USB connection instead.
Have you thought about doing the opposite for your editor app and doing editing over Bluetooth instead of USB?
I have not actually. That would be kind of a fun one. I don't know much about the Bluetooth. If there's access like to the REPL through Bluetooth somewhere, I would need that. But that's an idea that hadn't crossed my mind that I will give some more thought to, because that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, let that simmer in your brain, because I have the stub for in the BLE land of like making file reads and writes available over a service that works even when like no code is running. I want to refine it, maybe in like a 5.1 or a 5.2, but think it over.
Could be really cool. I will poke my head around a little bit in that.
Sweet. Thank you so much for all of the Android work. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay. Next up, I think Geek Guy is lurking. I think that's right. So let's go to Hierophect.
Okay, so this past week I didn't have a super productive week because I was upgrading to a new PC and new kind of everything associated with that. So it was a lot of installing and dealing with install issues and that kind of stuff. So had a little bit of time away from CircuitPython to get that up and running. But I did solve, with the help of Scott, we worked on the issue with UF2 bootloaders on the STM32 series, which was having a issue with interrupts. So we got through that, which should make it a lot more feasible to A, get the meow bit out, and B, have UF2 support on the other CircuitPython STM32 boards. So I'm pretty excited about getting that up and running. Looking forward to working on that this week. Generally got better at GDB, hoping to kind of keep improving the speed at which I can diagnose this kind of issue. So it was really great to see Scott's setup. Since that point, I've been working on some display I/O bugs, which have cropped up again, mostly with the meow bit in STM32. Just fixed one this morning. Going to double check and make sure that there aren't other ones still kind of lurking around. But I'm really hoping to get just the meow bit out and done and finished this week, so I stopped having to do all this junk. And get back to some of the new features for the STM32. We've had some interest in rotary I/O and pulse I/O, and I've still got a pile of boards to add support to, like the Discovery 405, the Esperinos, and all of them need UFT support. So there's lots of stuff to do. Looking forward to getting to that once the meow bit is out. So that's about it for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Hierophect. All right, Jason's lurking, so we'll go to Jeff.
Hi again. Last week, the main thing that I got to pull request status was performance updates for Audio Mixer. I've also been investigating around SD performance for MP3 playback, because a lot of the time you've got a very limited amount of time to do everything to keep the audio going, and a big part of that is reading from the SD. And so just getting an idea of what that is, can it be decreased or not, or are we stuck with it? There are a couple of right channel only audio bugs that you get only on SAMD51, and those have to do with the way that the two separate channels are kind of treated as separately as possible. I have a branch that's cooking that reworks everything about how that goes, and I think it's better, but there are a lot of cases to test. It affects all of the audio outputs, all of the audio sources, so it basically touches everything. And that means now, right when you're talking about the last beta of 5.0, is not the time for that to go in, which makes me sad, but we'll look at it again soon. So anyway, this week and today, the UI work on JetPlayer is actually happening. That is my top priority, but I made a lot of progress on it today. So I might get to some of the other ideas on my mind also this week. And so one thing I'm trying to figure out is, Adafruit SD card works pretty good, but maybe the performance is hurt by having to go back into Python, and in particular, you risk a chance of having to do a GC there while you're trying to get your audio out as soon as possible. Is there a subset of Adafruit SD card that you can move into C, you avoid the GC pauses, and you just kind of generally get back a little more time? And then I think this is one that is done today, was responding to review comments on the audio mixer performance PR. And in ongoing not so fun events, I have minor foot surgery on Friday, but that shouldn't keep me away from my comfy chair in front of my computer. So I expect to be back Monday.
Okay. Hope that goes well.
Thank you.
And if you do want to get the audio stuff in, feel free. I don't think we're that close to getting release candidates. So if you like this week or next week, I think it's still fine. But Dan will have a better idea because he looked at all the issues.
Lamore had asked me to work on the UI, so that is really my top priority. But I would like it if there was just a little less glitchiness in the audio too for JetPlayer. So and another thing that's coming real soon is I will be doing a learn guide for this thing, so I will have to learn guiding, and I'm sure somebody will be fielding questions from me about that, so thanks in advance. Also, belated hug report to Higher Effect. You did the STM port without using GDB? That's crazy. I mean...
Oh, no. No, I've just been getting... It's been nice to see Scott's setup, because he has all sorts of shortcuts and stuff in his GDB setup. So it was nice to see those. I did not put together the entire STM32.4 without debugging. That would be...
Okay.
Just getting better at GDB.
Better, definitely a skill that we can all hone. All right, I'm done.
0.
All right, thank you. Okay, Jerry.
So I'm still making progress on this reliable datagram mode for the RFN 9X and 69. I think it's working pretty well for MCU to MCU stuff, and it plays nicely with the Arduino version, the Radiohead stuff. But where I'm really struggling with is on the Raspberry Pi side, and I'm finding some places where I can help with the timing. So I'm trying to make some improvements in timing, and but really, still trying to figure things out on the Pi side. Under Blinka, there's some really big delays in the way it handles SPI that are driving me nuts. Found moving to Raspberry Pi 4 helped a lot, but that's really not the solution I'm looking for. So still working on that and learning lots, but it's taking time. And did some playing with the Teensy 4. That was fun. And did run into a problem when I wanted to do a quick I2C device test, but I couldn't read the library from the flash. So it looks like that's in work. And when that's fixed, I'll continue.
Yeah, I think that's the Dcache stuff I did.
Yeah, right. You didn't put that in yet, though, did you?
It's not merged, no.
Right. So no rush. I got plenty of things to do.
Yeah, I'm hoping today I can get that to the point where
I'll watch for it and play with it. Otherwise, it was fun. Nice to make an LED blink with it and that stuff. That's fun.
Yeah, it's getting there. I just it's pretty reliable without the Dcache, but hopefully
good.
As an aside, for those of you who don't know, these chips are at minimum 400 megahertz, but they can go up to gigahertz. And the challenge with CPUs that are that fast is that the memory that they actually load code and data from is not that fast. So in order to keep the CPU busy, you basically have to have intermediate caches of memory that are that quick. So when I say Dcache, it's a short name for data cache. So all the data that the CPU is modifying can actually be cached closer to the CPU. The problem with that, and the reason that we're getting bugs, is that if the CPU doesn't say, like, oh, by the way, I'm done with that data, it won't reflect that state of the world back to everything else in the chip as well, like USB. So there's some issues there with like basically having data in two places and it's not synchronized.
Is that also likely to be the reason for the little REPL glitch that's occurring too?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
All right.
just
Okay. Well, it's
like-
great to see it. It's again, always fun to bring something new on board, and those chips are fun.
Yeah. Like I did a little bit of work to make sure to make it actually enumerate. Like it didn't enumerate when I turned the Dcache on. But I think that there's a case that I missed basically where like USB updates the data, but the like CPU's not seeing the newer version for some reason. So.
Well, it sure loads fast too. That DFU bootloader on the DFU util, not DFU util, the Teensy bootloader is fast.
It is fast. Yeah, and it's like those chips go up to like a megabyte of RAM as well. So like the Teensy has a megabyte of RAM. So it's interesting because you'll be able to store a lot of Python code, but if you're touching a lot of like C libraries, you may actually have to load that code off the flash instead. So it's interesting. We'll have a lot of refinement to go into whatever 6 becomes, but
good.
We got to do 5 first. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, let's go to Kattni.
All right. So I threw this together quickly right before the meeting, and I don't remember everything I did. So here's what I remember. I did a number of fritzing objects. We were apparently behind on doing breakouts. So I did a bunch of those, and also the ITSY NRF 52840, which I also did the product guide for that. I updated the Circuit Playground README to the Circuit Playground library README to use the new import mechanism, and also have information on installing the necessary libraries, because up until now that library has only supported Circuit Playground Express and everything's built into CircuitPython. So to use it, there is no further anything necessary. But now it works with Bluefruit, and Bluefruit requires loading all the libraries and all the dependencies. So it now has a list of things you need there. So if you happen to be getting to it through the README, the information is now available. And I started to add an explanation of how the Circuit Playground library actually works behind the scenes to the CircuitPython Made Easy on Bluefruit and Express guide. Initially, I wanted to put it in the README, but I had already started a page in the guide ages ago when I wrote it in the first place. All the information on it was obsolete at this point, but I updated it, and so I started that. So there will be a page in that guide that explains the behind the scenes of that library for those who are interested in understanding how what the library is actually doing versus just using it. And began the PyCon 2020 planning discussion. So this week I will be doing the MLX 90640 thermal camera product guide. So there'll be fritzing for that, PCBs up on GitHub, etc., everything that goes with that. I'm going to be going through the library pull requests again to make sure that everything is that can continue to be pushed is pushed on, and so on and so forth. I need to finish the explanation that I started in the Made Easy guide. I need Dan's input on that, so I will be reaching out to him for that. I need to do another update to the README on the library to point to the guide for the explanation page. And also there was an issue with a relative path with the images that I fixed. So I'm waiting until the guide page is done to push that fix. And then I want to update the library to have the not implemented error in the Express module for the features that are only in Bluefruit, but it requires increasing the stack size in CircuitPython. And I had done part of that, but looking at the original PR to do that, there's more to it. So I didn't actually create a PR for it, and need to talk to Dan about that as well. And then continued PyCon planning, which I think is just going to be an ever-present thing for the next few months. So expect to hear me repeating myself with that until we actually go. And that is my status update.
All right, thanks, Katney. Okay, Kinger North and KJW are lurking, so let's go to Melissa.
Hello, let's see here. Okay, so last week I worked on the HT16K33 LED backpack driver updates and adding a lot of new features and porting over features from the Featherwing library. I worked on updating the guide for that. And then I did lots of testing for platform detect and Blinka pull requests. I tested SSD 1306 pull request to make sure the existing displays are still working. Reviewed several CircuitPython.org pull requests, and I spent the weekend setting up my Windows computer to dual boot to Windows 10 and Windows 7 to do more testing. This week I'm going to finish up the HT16K33 guide updates. Focus more on getting, or after that, I'm going to focus more on getting Blinka running better and adding more boards. And I'll start on a Pine 64 Blinka. And I'm sure there'll be other things that I'm not expecting that fall in there.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. All right. Mr. Certainly and MS Costi are lurking. So I will go read off Summersoft as the last person here. Summersoft says, last week with Rosie Pi, with the preliminary security design choices I made, development needs to move to the Raspberry Pi environment. So I worked on changes to the Ansible configuration for the new system to understand and verify what approaches can be automated. New config is about 80% done and is passing check runs. Also verified my assumptions on repository transfers and org accounts, created a new org and transferred one repository to the new org account. I like to continue cleaning the others up, working trees, branches, etc. before transferring them. The new location for all of the repositories is github.com/physci. This week on Rosie Pi and PhysiciI, I continue repository transfers and continue setting up the new environment on the Raspberry Pi. For Adabot, start working on the request to tweak the reports to show merged PRs info. And lastly, test Jeff Epler's audio mixer PR. Sorry I didn't get it over the past weekend. Ansible drugged me into its vortex. I feel ya there. And with that is status updates. The next section we have, and the last section we have of the meeting, is In the Weeds. If you have a topic for In the Weeds that, something that came up in this meeting or something that you've just been thinking about and like to talk about, please drop a note in the notes doc that you want to talk about it, and then we don't have to wait super long. So we have currently one topic, and I'll kick it over to Katney for that.
All right, so we need to be more deliberate about notifying people when there are changes in the meeting. We make a lot of assumptions about who's attending and what they know, and we do move it based on US holidays, which that's the assumption I'm referring to, is that
Right.
we assume that everybody knows when there's a US holiday, and I think it's an entirely unreasonable assumption.
Right.
So one thing we need to do is not assume that everyone who is able to attend a following week has been in the meeting the previous week, and make it a point to notify people as soon as we make the change,
Right.
in some other way via Discord or whatever. And then hopefully do reminders a little bit sooner, just to try and be more, I guess, considerate of
Right.
the fact that not everybody is attending every meeting, and not everybody is aware of when we may or may not move them. So that's just something I think we need to discuss, and something that we need to and Jeff makes good points. Possibly put up a Google Calendar where we keep track of things, and that there should be more advanced planning, not just 1 week.
Right.
When we know more than a week ahead of time. It's just we're really bad about remembering to say anything until In the Weeds the week before.
Right.
So I think that's something worth doing, is maybe putting together a calendar, which I'm willing to do.
I was thinking if we could host it on GitHub, that would be good.
Okay.
I was thinking about this in the shower. Like, if we could find a Jekyll plugin that can create ICS files,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe that thing can also show past things, and then we can link to like the video and the notes doc on the same site. I thought that would be kind of cool. So, um, I'm trying to live as Google free as I can, so that's why I'm like, no, let's not do a Google Calendar.
Okay.
But yeah, like there's a standard way of sharing calendars that like Google, that will work with Google Calendar and stuff. Yeah, so there should be a way that, and I think we could actually host that in the CircuitPython weekly meeting repo, where all the notes
Okay.
and stuff are as well. And then, you know, regardless of what calendar you're using, you can pull in that ICS file.
That sounds good.
And then I think just pinging CircuitPythonistas, like when, like we had that moment where we talked about it last week. Like we should have just immediately said, "Oh, by the way, CircuitPythonistas like meeting is next week," and pin
Right.
it, and we can pin it as well. I've stopped doing that because we ran out of space for pins, but we should like David's saying.
I know we need to go through and delete. I think we need to go through and
pin
remove
stuff.
earlier pins and try to keep the pins. Given that we're just running out of space with them, I think we should try and keep them more relevant to
Yeah,
current
I agree.
things.
I agree. Yeah.
And so
those are one and the same hire effect.
right.
CircuitPython 2020 thoughts are shower thoughts.
Okay.
Are there any other things people would like to see regarding being better about scheduling? Did you have any other ideas, Katty?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything I was going to suggest. I think putting together a calendar, and then we should basically in the next 2 or 3 meetings, or depending on how long it takes us to get this calendar up, we need to have an in the weeds discussion about the next X number of months,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
And I think, you know, we have you know, obviously U.S. holidays are pretty standard, so I think we can pretty easily come up with what the meetings are going to look like for the next few months.
Right.
And put it together.
The other thing that comes to mind, depending how far you're getting, is the week of PyCon will probably be another exceptional week where we might do something different. But who knows what that thing is right at this second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there are some where we can put in the calendar that it's a question mark. And then we can put in the calendar that it's a question mark, and then as we get closer to that time, we can change it. The ones that we know are going to be changed, we should plan out ahead of time. And the ones that are question mark, we'll say they are a question mark, so at least people can be prepared to have to be flexible. Because yeah, like around PyCon, we don't know what that's going to look like. So I agree. In that case, let's just, you know, make a note that it may move, but we don't know what it's going to look like. So this is a good set of things. I think this is an excellent set of things, and I think we can move forward from here. And if any more stuff comes up, we can make those changes as we move forward. So I think we've got a good starting point.
Cool. Yeah, and I just wanted to say I wanted to apologize to the folks that got confused about that too. Like I didn't help it either. So
and I mean, yeah, we will thank you to everyone for your input. I definitely don't know how to do some of the things that we are opting to do here, so I will be pinging people who do for assistance with that. But we'll put something together, and we'll try and be better about that moving forward. And feel free to remind us, because this is going to be a pretty major change in our operating procedures. And breaking habits is difficult to do. So please feel free to remind us, hey, we were going to do this, and or please consider this, and or you haven't planned more than a month out. What's the deal for the next month or whatever? Let us know that we aren't keeping up with it if we don't.
Right.
So thank you.
Keep us accountable.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. And thanks for remembering to bring that up. I was like, I had that moment of like, oh, we need to talk about this, and look down, and you had already like put it in the notes. So it's perfect.
Yep, no problem.
All right. One other topic. Let's go to Carter for it. Can't hear you, Carter. Do you need to restart? Or I can also kick it off. I think I know what you're talking about. Discord is unhappy. Oh,
Okay, how about now?
there.
I killed Discord accidentally halfway through the meeting and brought it back up, and I had to do my little USB microphone dance again. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So anyway, you're probably already guessing. It's and I'm not fully up to speed on this myself, but it's kind of the status quo of NeoPixel, and it's changed using Pixel Buff. And where it stands with all of the boards. So I did some work this weekend on the standalone library that's not in the firmware,
right,
to get it working on Blinka stuff. And then this morning, someone in Discord, and actually I saw a forum post that I just responded to also, where on M0 boards it's not working. And I think the issue there is that it's just flat out not in the firmware.
Right. The expectation is that PyPixel Buff is the way that you would use it on boards that don't have it in the firmware.
Which would be the same Python library.
Correct.
That you would use on Blinka. Okay, so two issues there are I'm not seeing it connected to the bundle, and it also uses regular expression.
Okay. Yeah, there could be issues. So
okay.
For those of you who don't know, Pixel Buff is this base class for all RGB pixel stuff that handles managing the buffer that gets output to pixels, whether it's DotSARs or NeoPixels or potentially other like protocols for RGB pixels. And the advantage of doing this was that we could then do those things like changing all values for brightness internally in C in CircuitPython, which makes it a ton faster. So Roy Crayola did a bunch of work getting this all kind of factored out, and like it shares a bunch more code between all these things that are like trying to pretend to be, like sequences of colors. So there's a huge win there. But then this weekend, basically a lot of people had issues with it, and I was kind of like trying to figure out like why did it happen this weekend, and it happened to be that NeoPixel was released on Thursday, along with Dylan's sweep of libraries. And although the API didn't change, like the under the hood stuff changed a lot. And so I talked about this a little bit before, but like with NeoPixel in particular, and potentially some other libraries in the future, we just need to be more deliberate about when we push it out, so that we can expect to get these issues coming in, and we can be prepared to deal with them quickly and respond to them so that people know what's going on. So this is a good example and a good heads up that like as more people use CircuitPython, we have to be more careful when we release new things. I'll take a look at a lot of the outstanding stuff and try to kind of figure how it all fits together. But overall, this is a huge win. Like, let's not forget that. Like, the speed ups that Pixel Buff provides to NeoPixel animations on CircuitPython are like really, really striking. So, yeah, in general, let's just not like get ourselves down because like there are bugs. There are always bugs, and don't forget that these are enabling people to do a lot of other stuff as well. So we'll work through this Pixel Buff stuff this week, and people will be happy and all that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I was just wanting to make sure I was understanding kind of the landscape and where things were headed.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'll do is I'll open a couple of issues in the Pixel Buff repo, because you're saying it should be in the bundle, right?
It should be in the bundle. I'm
Because that's
surprised
how
that it's
people on
not.
M0s aren't good. People on M0s and whatnot are gonna have to pull it over.
Correct.
And then of course it's gonna have to use whatever CircuitPython has and not things like regular expression. Okay, I think I will open a few issues then.
Yeah,
That seems like the way to go.
And feel free to add me on them explicitly too, because I'll back this up and get it finished up. I did all the reviews for it, so I'll take it on to get it smoothed over.
Okay. Okay, and I guess in terms of in the weeds, that's all I had. So thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Carter. And thanks for responding to people on that. So MPIs are kind of big, but the thing with PyPixel Buff is that it basically just moved a lot of the logic that was in neopixel.py into PyPixel Buff. So it's actually, you should be kind of net neutral in terms of the amount of code that you're both loading into RAM and that is living on the drive itself. It shouldn't be a lot more code. It should just be moved to a different spot. And then the advantage is that also now for builds that do have it built in, builds that have it built in will both be faster and they'll actually have less impact on RAM and flash because NeoPixel itself is smaller and Pixel Buff is handled internally. So, like I said, it's a net win. It's just there's a lot of people that use NeoPixel, it turns out, and we need to be aware of that. So I'm not always good about it. I'm just like, oh, nobody uses my stuff, I'll just push it. But in reality, people do use it. So awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining the meeting. Let me wrap up. This has been the CircuitPython community meeting for January 21st, 2020. I didn't say that before, but I'm Scott. I work for Adafruit. I go by Tannewt online. Everybody's welcome to join this meeting. It usually happens on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on the Adafruit Discord server, which you can join by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. That will get you into our Discord server. We're there to chat usually most of the week, so drop by, say hi. If you want to know and be pinged about when this meeting is happening and when it's changing, please join or ask us to ping me or somebody else in CircuitPythonistas or moderators to add you to the CircuitPythonistas role on Discord. It'll make your little name badge purple. So we'll add you to that, and then you'll get pinged about things that are changing. And that's super handy. Again, this was recorded, so I have a video and of the CircuitPython text channel along with everybody's voices. It gets posted both to my Diode Zone and to the Adafruit YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. There's also a notes doc that goes along with it. Check the description in the video for that. And you can follow along. Thanks to David Cloud. All of the entries in the notes doc are now sorted by time, so it's easy. You don't have to like scroll to different parts of the doc while you're following along. So thanks to them for that. And with that, we'll talk to everybody next week.